Hello, friends, and welcome back to Stories About Entitled People. Today's story takes us back to the 2000s, where a head teller at a bank faces off against management over how much cash to order for the vault. What happens next? A perfect storm of irate customers, cash shortages, and a very satisfying "I told you so." But before we begin, best way to support our channel is to leave comments, like, and subscribe with the turned-on bell so you don't miss the new video every single day. Here we go. When following orders breaks the system. Back in the 2000s, I worked in a bank, and for 2 of those years, I was the head teller. As the head teller, I also had to keep up with the cash in the vault. Now, it's never a good look for a bank to run low on money, but it happens. With that being said, I would try to order so that I didn't have too much, but enough on hand to keep us from panicking. Now on to the story. There was a system that would tell me at the end of the week how much money I should order and or ship out. I'll be honest with you, I went with my gut on this because 1, I knew my house, and 2, I paid attention to what kind of week it was going to be, i.e. holiday weekend, heavy payday, etc. So my bosses came to me and told me that I was ordering too much and ignoring what the system said. My response? You can also see that I'm using whatever I'm ordering. I'm not just hoarding. So I was told, just do what the system says. Okay, bet. I gave my team the heads up. The next few weeks are gonna suck. They're telling me that I'm ordering too much, so I'm gonna do exactly what they told me to do. You can direct all the bullcrap to me. If people get mad, don't worry about it. I'll take the heat. So for 3 weeks, I did exactly as I was told, and what I thought was going to happen did. It got to the point where we're cashing large checks in 20s and barely able to do that. Apparently, the complaints started going uphill because the following conversation happened. Bosses, we're getting complaints about the branch not having enough big bills. Me, I figured that'd happen. Bosses, we want to know why. Me, I'm doing exactly what I was told. Whatever the system is telling me to do, I'm doing, but y'all already knew that. Bosses, this can't keep happening. Me, it wasn't happening when I was ordering the way I needed to, so now you have a choice to make. Bosses, do what you need to do for now until we figure this out. Me, okay. I was pretty much left alone after that. As a side note, I actually reached out to that specific department to ask about a workaround so that I wouldn't have to keep having this conversation. The solution they gave was so simple, and I never had that issue again. I'm always a proponent of if someone's doing a good job, stay out of their way. If they're doing a really good job, don't let them overwork themselves to death trying to constantly prove themselves. And finally, whenever they want to move on to bigger and better things, you're their biggest advocate. It'd keep me up at night to think I held someone back from a better life just to be selfish and keep them working for me. It's okay to be a stepping stone. Better to be a part of the journey than the ending destination. And our second story. Guy tried to force me to bring his car around at Rite Aid. Disclaimer. I'm a black man. At the time of the story, I was probably around 15 years old. This combination of traits meant I had a 50-50 chance of others assuming I worked at any store I went to. While there may be embellishments, everything stated did happen. So I'm walking home from school and stop at a Rite Aid to grab a bottle of water and maybe some snacks. Ended up only grabbing water, which wasn't a game breaker because there was a McDonald's a little ways down. As I finished paying and am about to walk through the automatic doors, this older dude who was, I think, flirting with the cashier in front of him. This dude looked like a mix of Josh Brolin and John Goodman, draped in jeans, a sweat-stained wife beater with a tuft of hair peeking through the neckline, and an open button-down shirt. He stops me and tries to hand me his keys. I recoiled as if he tried to stab me. I told him I didn't work there. Undeterred, he jingled the keys towards me and said I need to bring his car up to the front. I, confused by his determination to get me to go to his car, again stated I didn't work there. I just got out of school, and I don't need this He slurred something I didn't quite understand. I loomed down, gazing down at my Rattlesnake 316 shirt and cargo shorts, a gray JanSport on my back, a water bottle in one hand, and store-brand over-the-ear headphones in the other, racking my brain to understand how he somehow thinks some kind of car service, especially for Rite Aid. I guess my brain shorted out because next thing I know, I'm basically being pushed out the door by this guy, keys in hand. As I'm standing there in front of the automatic doors with a mix of stranger danger, general teenage apathy, and wanting to just leave, I take what I feel is the most sensible action and launch the keys as far away from me and into the parking lot as I can before immediately exiting stage left and continuing home, after making another pit stop at McDonald's. And here's the aftermath. I guess the guy noticed I left when his car didn't magically appear in front of the store and called the police. A cop car was already at the McDonald's where I stopped for food, so they stopped me as I was leaving. I told him the guy gave me his keys and seemed really adamant I go to his car, even though I told him several times I didn't work for Rite Aid and didn't want his keys. I mentioned I thought it was pretty creepy how much he wanted me to go to his car. They asked what I did with them. I told them I chucked them into the parking lot and left. Since I didn't leave the front of the store, I was sure it was on camera. The cops chuckled and said I was free to go. I asked why, feeling it could be that easy. One of them said that if I stole a car, why was I still walking home? Don't know if the dude got his keys or had to call a tow/locksmith, and I don't really care. Cops were cool enough. Well played, OP. You handled that baffling situation better than most adults would have. And honestly, I'm impressed. The sheer audacity of that man with his sweat-stained fashion statement and misplaced confidence, thinking you were some Rite Aid valet, what even, is next level clueless. The moment you chucked his keys into the parking lot, brave. A perfect blend of not my problem energy and leave me alone. And the cops laughing at the absurdity, priceless. Their logic, if you stole a car, why are you still walking, was refreshingly on point. I hope John Goodman learned something that day. If someone recoils from your sweaty keys, listen to them. And our last story. Karen's fence fiasco. I moved into my house about 2 years ago, thrilled to have a place to call my own. It's a good neighborhood, mostly families and retirees who've been here for years. Everyone seemed friendly enough, except for one neighbor who lived next door. Let's call her Karen. When I first moved in, I didn't think much of Karen beyond her seemingly cold demeanor. She didn't introduce herself like some of the other neighbors did, and when I waved while unpacking, she just turned away. No big deal, I figured. Maybe she was just shy or liked her privacy. But it didn't take long to see that Karen wasn't just aloof. She was the self-appointed ruler of the neighborhood. I'd hear her yelling at kids riding their bikes too close to her lawn, complaining to other neighbors about cars parked on the street, and generally sticking her nose where it didn't belong. I even caught her scolding a delivery driver for taking too long to find her house. A few months in, I started to notice her antics directed at me. If I left my trash can out a little too long after collection, she'd glare at me like I'd committed a crime. Once, when I had a couple of friends over for a backyard barbecue, she called out over the fence, "Some of us are trying to enjoy a quiet evening." It was 6 p.m. on a Saturday. Despite her attitude, I tried to stay civil. I figured as long as we kept to ourselves, we'd coexist just fine. But things took a turn for the worse when Karen decided to put up a new fence. I came home one day to see fence posts sticking out of the ground near our shared property line. Something didn't look right. The post seemed too close, on my side, in fact. The suspicions grew when I compared it to the stakes I'd put down after my own survey when I moved in. I decided to address it right away. I knocked on Karen's door, survey in hand, hoping for a calm conversation. When she answered, she looked irritated, as though I'd interrupted something very important. "Hi, Karen," I said, forcing a polite smile. "I noticed the fence posts going up. I think they might be on my property. Could we take a look at our surveys together to double-check?" Karen crossed her arms and rolled her eyes. "Oh, for heaven's sake, you can't tell property lines from a survey. My contractor knows what he's doing." I blinked, trying to process what she'd just said. "Well, actually, that's exactly what surveys are for, to determine property lines. If we compare them, we can... She threw her hands up, cutting me off. My contractor has my survey. I don't have time for this. It's just a fence. You're being ridiculous. With that, she spun around and slammed the door. I tried to give her the benefit of the doubt, hoping she'd verify the property line before continuing, but the next week, her contractor was back, finishing the fence without moving the posts. My calls and emails went unanswered, and Karen actively avoided me. I even overheard her talking to another neighbor, calling me petty and saying I just wanted to cause trouble. At this point, I was out of options. I hired a surveyor to confirm what I already knew. The fence was 40 inches into my property. I sent her the report through my lawyer, hoping she'd finally take it seriously. Her response? There must be some mistake. The fence came down after legal action, but the drama didn't end there. Tires on my car were slashed, and I found trash scattered across my backyard on multiple occasions. While I couldn't prove Karen was behind it, the timing was too convenient to ignore. One evening, I caught her tossing something into my yard. I stepped outside and called out, "Karen, care to explain why you're throwing things onto my property?" She smirked. "Prove it," she said, turning to walk away. That was the final straw. I installed security cameras the next day and, sure enough, caught her in the act. Trash bags, yard waste. She was relentless. Armed with footage, I called the police. When the officers showed up at her door, she tried to play innocent, claiming it was all a misunderstanding. "I thought I was helping them clean up," she protested. The officers weren't buying it. She received a formal warning, and I filed for a restraining order to keep her away from my property. Since then, Karen's been much quieter. She avoids me entirely. The other neighbors, many of whom had initially believed her gossip, have since apologized and admitted they were wrong about me. It's funny how things turned out. Karen thought she could bully me into submission, but all she ended up with was a restraining order and a neighborhood that finally saw her for who she really is. This is crazy. You gave a nice warning back when it would have been easy to fix, but your neighbor didn't want to hear it. That's on them. OP, you did exactly the correct thing. Your neighbor's a thief. She attempted to simply take your property. You own that property, you paid for it, and you need it. Hey guys, thank you all for watching the video. I'll see you in the next one.